It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I am your host. And our goal, our mission in life is to dispel the propaganda that you are fed daily by the mainstream media. To expose the truth and give you, if nothing else, the motivation to go out there and gather the information so that you can make informed, critical thinking, independent decisions and opinions on the truth. My clarion call is, wake up, America. We're coming apart at the seams. I'm like Paul Revere out there, and I'm not giving myself any undue credit here, but I mean, look, I'm no Paul Revere, but you know, I'm out there every day trying to awaken and enlighten people to say, you know what? I've been resisting accepting and acknowledging this all along, but it's time that I finally had a conversation with the guy in the mirror and said, okay, I just have to admit that we have gone beyond salvage at this point. That's all it takes. Introduce the idea and let your mind think of it. Open your mind and stop sitting on this ideological fence. You know, 5 counties just did that in Colorado. They seceded. Did you hear what I just said? 5 counties have just voted to secede and form the 51st state. Now, the election just happened on Tuesday, 2 days ago. And before the election, it was all over the media. Colorado's trying to secede. There's 5 counties that want to separate because they're not happy with what's going on. You know, Colorado has gone from this red state conservatism, and over the course of the last, I guess decade or so, but especially in the last 5 years, they've gone so far over to the left that, they've legalized marijuana, which, by the way, interestingly enough, is a principle in use of nullification that nobody seems to want to agree or admit is nullification. You nullified federal law by saying, despite what federal law says, we're going to do what's right for our citizens. I don't care whether you agree or disagree with marijuana. But why is it then when a state decides to use nullification principles to legalize marijuana, the press is all for it? But when they want to use nullification to legalize and confirm your Second Amendment right, oh my goodness, you can't do that. The Supremacy Clause supersedes all state desires. Give me a break. You know what their quote is after this election? We have established a beachhead for secession. Thank you, Northern Colorado. We in America, millions of patriots, hopefully tens of millions of patriots, thank you for having the courage of your convictions, the belief, the knowledge, the wisdom, the insight to recognize the problem and to do something about it. And we're grateful. I personally am thankful. And you've given a new outline to other states that seek to do the same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, Colorado's not alone. Northern California has been trying to do this for, I don't even know, a decade or more. Western Maryland has come out and talked about seceding away from Eastern Maryland. Everybody in Eastern Maryland works for the federal government. No wonder they're sycophantically approving every little thing that comes down the pike. The people who they owe their allegiance to and they're living to are the ones making the rules. For the first time since the Civil War, folks, 5 counties in Colorado have voted to instruct their elected officials in those counties to pursue the possibility of creating a new 51st state. That is a coup. And mark my words, when I say coup, I do mean coup d'etat. It's a coup d'etat to separate yourself. It's a revolution to separate yourself from tyranny. And if it's only started at a state level, that's okay with me. At least the ball is in motion now. The ballot the issue was on 11 county ballots. But at the end of the night, Phillips County, Cheyenne County, Kit Carson County, Yuma County, and Washington counties voted in favor. The rest said no. Jeff Hare, the founder of the 51st State Initiative, this is what he says. This is an important moment for liberty. Wow. I'm not sure he understands how much impact that statement actually has. This is an important moment for liberty. We have 5 counties in this state that have said they want to exercise their rights under the state constitution and secede. You want to know why? Because our founders made it very clear to us that if we recognized that there were problems that were insurmountable via the political solutions that are given to us in our Constitution, that we as individuals have the right to abolish that government, and if we cannot abolish it because we're in the minority, then we have the right to secede away from it and create a new libertarian, new Republican form of government that is more in line with our needs, our desires, and our God-given rights. You know, it's imperative that we recognize how important this is. And I got to tell you, the media was talking about this. I heard stories about it, generally in little blurbs. Not, nobody did a great expose on it. There's probably not a 60-minute special or something. Not that I'd spend a lot of time watching 60 Minutes. I don't. But my point is this. The media was talking about it. But after the election, it's all about Virginia and Cuccinelli, and it's all about Chris Christie in New Jersey. Well, guess what? I got to tell you, this has more impact on a national level than those stories do. Ultimately, the guy who's sitting in the governor's seat in either Virginia or New Jersey has impact on only 2 out of 50 states. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a much bigger issue. And I submit to you that one of the reasons that the sycophantic press, the Ministry of Propaganda, is silent on this, and that all you hear is the sound of crickets, is because they don't want anybody else to recognize this for what it is. The first shot heard round the world in this century. The people of this state have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves as a free, sovereign, and independent state, and to abolish and alter their constitution and form of government whenever they deem it necessary to their safety and happiness, provided such change be not repugnant to the Constitution of the United States. That's in Article 2 of the Colorado Constitution. God bless these patriots, these constitutional, liberty-minded, freedom-minded patriots for having the courage to stand up and actually use that Constitution as the flaming sword that it is meant to be. This is the second time, by the way, I want to point something out to you, that Colorado has done what no other state is willing to do. They also just recently, if you recall, this was just in the news, they recalled 2 state Democratic senators. These are the 2 who approved and piloted and led the charge against the Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Colorado. Colorado instituted draconian gun laws. I mean, stuff that's like New York City kind of draconian gun regs. Who'd have thunk in Colorado, right? They used an article out of their Constitution, I think it was their Article 11, to recall these 2 state senators who voted in favor of these gun control measures. Kudos to them. America should be clapping because Colorado is the one who is setting the pace, the tone. They're the ones who are showing us the measure of the bar. The truth is, everyone else should be looking to them and saying, we want to emulate that liberty and that love for liberty and freedom that they are not only cognizant of, but exercising and expressing. That's the difference. You see, Colorado is taking action where the rest of the other 49 states who are disenfranchised, disenchanted, are milling about like cattle, confused. Hare, he's the guy who kicked this thing off. He had a couple of comments that are in this article, and it's on WorldNet Daily. It's linked here in this YouTube posting if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, it's on WND.com. WND, like WorldNetDaily.com. Counties plunge forward with their plan for a new state. WorldNet Daily, by the way, is alternative media, and make no mistake about it, that's a great place for you to gather information. They're quite religious, and I don't care what your religious beliefs are. The reason I say that to you is because I don't want you to be dissuaded when you get on there and you see stuff about, from the religious right. Your job and duty as a critical thinker and as a patriot is to read all sides. I'm not saying I agree with everything that WND does and produces, but they are a great source of alternative media that will tell you the stuff that the rest of the mainstream ministry of propaganda will not even entertain discussing. Anyway, Hare has a couple of comments in the article here, and I encourage you to go read it yourself. Since this movement began a few months ago, we went from 0 to 43% approval, even in the counties that voted against the issue. Wow, that's quite a statement, folks. This is especially significant when you consider that unlike other ballot initiatives, there was no organized campaign in support of the measure. The most we did was a few radio ads and Facebook posts. We didn't have time or money to have meetings advocating the issue. In spite of this, large percentages of voters said they wanted to leave the state. Folks, let me tell you something. I know, and I read you this quote earlier, and I think it was the last segment, but I'm going to read it to you again. I know that you're harried, and I know that you're swamped. Edward Rutledge said this. He was a framer. I always considered an idle life as a real evil. But a life of such hurry, such constant hurry, leaves us scarcely a moment for reflection or for the discharge of any other than the most immediate and pressing concerns. So I understand. I get exactly where you're coming from. We're swamped. we're just trying to make ends meet. We're afraid that we're not going to be able to pay the electric bill or the gas bill, or that little Bobby or little Cindy is not going to be able to get to the ball game on time, and they're going to be disappointed, and blah, 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 blah. But I got to tell you something. Is their future, is the future of this nation not more important than all of those things that we worry about? Isn't your right to hand off the torch of liberty and freedom to your children more important than whether or not they make the ball game on time? I went to a meeting yesterday with a gal who talked about Common Core. She's just a mom. And she's not a politician. She's not running for anything. She's not trained in any of the, the concepts of going out and presenting to people. She's got degrees. She's educated. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But she's not a professional, rabble-rouser, if you will. She's just a mom who's got 3 kids, and she started looking at this Common Core thing and saying, holy smoke, I can't believe what they're teaching my kids. And so yesterday, she drove probably 250, maybe 300 miles to come to my town and put on a presentation about Common Core to educate those around her. She paid for it out of her pocket. She didn't even ask for there was a couple people there from this group, Missourians Against Common Core and Moms Against Common Core. You can look them both up on the internet. I encourage you to do so. I live in Missouri. Our governor has approved it without even going to the legislature about it. The legislature is now being asked for $629 million to support it. And they're like, what Common Core? What is this? We never even heard of it before. Well, we're already implementing it, and we need the money to finish it. And Congress and the House, the legislature in the state of Missouri is like, Common what? Well, don't ask us too many questions. Just give us the money. When you find out what the core of Common Core really is, let me tell you something. Your stomach's going to flip, and then it's going to churn, and then it's going to burn. But this woman literally took time away from her family, 3 kids and a husband, to come down here and do this presentation. And I tell you, I've seen a lot of presentations in my life, and I've given a lot of them. She wasn't the most professional presenter I've ever seen, but she did an excellent job. Her stuff was well organized. She had a lot of empirical documents and proof. That's what mattered. In fact, it wasn't her speaking that was so critically important to the meeting. What she said wasn't quite as important as the information she presented. She gave everyone in that meeting empirical proof of the danger and the tragedy of what Common Core is, without professional training and all that hoopla. So my point is this. I know you're harried. I know you're scared. I know you're worried. I know you're frustrated. I know you're broke. Don't you see that that's part of the program? Keep them in chaos. Keep them in this tornado, this whirlwind that they can never quite figure out. They can't. I've often used the analogy that the current mode we're in is kind of like it's kind of like being on ice. You just can't quite, and you start to slip, and no matter how many times you move your feet, you just can't quite get your balance, and that throws you off this way, and then you try to make an adjustment and you go the other way. That's what this is like. Or another analogy is that it's like gravity has left the earth. And here we are floating around, and we can't seem to grab a hold of anything, and we can't get any traction. I get it. I understand it. I see it. I smell it. I taste it. I feel it. I do it. It's in me too. But, people like Stacy, people like me, hopefully people like you, we're taking the time out of our lives, irrespective of what else we've got going on, to stand up and do the right thing. And you cannot leave us and abandon us and make us do it alone. Because we're sitting here fighting for you. I mean, it's so important that this is what Colorado has done. Yes, it was to their benefit. But guess what? They benefited each of us. And how do we know that? Because the statement, the quote that opens the article is this: we have established a beachhead for secession. That is a powerful statement. Because a beachhead means that someone has paid the price to establish that location. Someone, think of Normandy and how many military men died to establish that beachhead. The enemy fought furiously to push them back. But wave after wave of brave and courageous men went to their deaths to establish that beachhead so that others, and in some cases using their bodies as shields, could continue the fight. We have established a beachhead for secession. A beachhead means we're supposed to follow suit. That means that the gate has fallen down on our transport and it's time for us to get out there and get our feet wet and run for shore. No matter how busy, no matter how frightened, no matter how terrified, no matter how intimidated we are. You think those men who ran on that beach in Normandy and have done it in 1,000 other locations, you think they weren't scared? You think they weren't mumbling a prayer as they ran forth? Gosh. America, what are you waiting for? Will you let your fear handcuff you? Chain you to a life of misery, and chain and envelop your children and your progeny and the generations that will come after in a life of misery and hopelessness? Is that the measure of you? Is that the measure of you? They've established a beachhead. Not just for secession, for liberty, for freedom, for the right for you to say, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it to strengthen me and fight in my own way for my nation, my country, my state, my city, my family, my children. And I don't care whether that fight takes the form of secession or whether that fight takes the form of Second Amendment rights, First Amendment rights, Common Core. Get on the school board. Go to city council and kick the bums out who have been turning your city into some kind of a little fascist dictatorship. Whatever form it takes, do it. Hide behind the bodies of those who have come before us. Stand upon their shoulders. There's no white horse. There's no knight in shining armor who's riding to our salvation, who's going to rout the enemy for us. My father fought on Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima in World War II. He was one of those guys that ran out of that transport and waded through water where his friends were floating face down, and the water was red with the blood of his friends. The the entrails of his comrades. Are we any less worthy to stand up and do what's right? Is it not our duty, our job, our obligation to honor the sacrifice that they have made to establish that beachhead? And I don't care what that beachhead is. It's a 237, 35-year-old beachhead. And now, while we're in a position where we can actually win the day without even having to fire a shot, but we sit around and we're impotent. We are impotent, cowering in fear and desperation, using the excuse of Johnny's got to go to the ball game. My boss wants this report done. I got to make dinner. I got to do the dishes. Well, maybe everybody just got to eat sandwiches tonight. I'm going to leave you with this, and then we're going to take a break. These are words which you should be able, and go look them up on the internet, or you can find them on my website. This is a phrase that you should read every single day. I don't care if you print it out and you put it on a little business card, or you put it on your desk, or you put it over the computer that you work at, or you put it on the handle of the shovel that you dig ditches with. I don't care if you stick it on the dashboard of your car, but it should be a living reminder to us of how exigent our circumstances truly are, and motivate us to take action every single day, to fight for liberty and freedom, because it's all we truly have. Everything else that you're worried about losing is dust in the wind. Still, if you will not fight for the right, when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than live as slaves. Winston Churchill. God, that is a powerful statement that should be the living mantra of us every single day. If you will not fight for the right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory is sure and will not be too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than live as a slave. Whew. Man, if that don't hit you right between the eyes, you must be bulletproof. We're going to take a break. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And you can find every program that we do on YouTube at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. That quote I gave you is from Winston Churchill. You can find it by going to America's Voice Now and reading the story, The Plan to Take Back America, place all state and federal capitals under civil disobedience siege. Man, America, let's take action. We'll be right back.